Hey, how's it going, everyone? In today's project, we're going to create your own portfolio website using Tailwind CSS and JavaScript. Now, we're going to use Tailwind CSS version 4, the newest version of Tailwind CSS. So if you didn't watch my crash course on Tailwind CSS, check it out in the previous videos. Also, I released a complete beginner's JavaScript crash course. Check that one out if you're new to JavaScript. But with this being said, let's just take a look at the course. So we're obviously going to implement dark mode for the entire thing. We're going to have a navigation up here, which can then navigate us with a smooth scroll to our projects, to our contact, and well, about page. I'm just going to leave it out. This time we're also going to have down here a footer and then a button that is going to take us to the top of the website will appear when we are in a specific viewport of that website. So also we're going to have here a couple of hover effects on share. Let me just change this back to white. Light mode, and then you can see the hover effects on the project. Now this is also going to be responsive, so let me just get this down to a mobile format. Then we're going to have a hamburger menu with a nice little drop down here, which will obviously still work even if we are on a mobile version. So responsive navigation with drop down, light mode, dark mode, smooth scrolling, and obviously responsive friendly website for your portfolio, ready to be uploaded to where we want to upload it. Should I do also a publishing? We're going to take care of that later on. Now, also down here in the contact, we're going to implement a email address, a website. It's just going to leave it my own web development courses website, and also Twitter, YouTube, and GitHub. Definitely check out my GitHub for more projects. Also the YouTube channel, subscribe and like this video, obviously. Okay, so let's get into our little project here. Let's start out. We're just going to continue on working out. If you didn't already follow along with my Learn Web Development from the beginning, then basically you can just create a new folder. If you are following along, then we're going to go into projects, create a new folder within project, and we're going to call it the portfolio and dash website. Now this is going to be different from my portfolio because it's going to have A, functionality, and B, we're going to completely use Tailwind CSS. Also going to implement dark mode, we're going to implement this drop-down menu, and so on and so on. So let's start up by creating a index.html file. Start up with a boilerplate, shift exclamation mark, hit enter, and close up the left part. We don't need it anymore. First things first, we're just going to start up with a simple H1 and just going to type in here Norbert's portfolio. Obviously you can portfolio. Obviously going to type in your own name. Okay, let's right click, open live server, and we have a just regular HTML website. So now we need to implement Tailwind CSS. So we're going to go to Tailwind CSS, and we're going to go on Get Started. Click on Get Started, and then we're going to navigate to the right side to plain CDN. So I'm not going to install Tailwind CSS. I'm not going to use any kind of framework. So from right here, we're going to copy this script tag. Just copy it, go above your title in your code, insert it here, and I'm also just going to go now to my H1, type in a class name. Let's see if this works. So let's also take a look at our portfolio here. So Tailwind CSS already takes effect. As soon as you hit save, you see our margins are gone, the formatting is different. Now let's just type in here text. Let's say text 2 times XL, increase the text size and font bold. Okay, and if this takes effect, then you can always see that Tailwind CSS is working because you don't see any margins and any paddings. So we just implemented Tailwind CSS and we see that it is working. Next, what we're going to do is style the body tag. So let's get into our body tag. Let's add here, first of all, a class. And we're going to go with a background of gray 100, a text gray of 900. And although I'm not implementing right now, there's going to be a different section of this project, dark mode, but I am going to add the code that will be specific to dark mode. So I'm going to go through the entire project by adding the dark mode code. But the implementation of how dark mode works, I'm going to do later on. So we're going to also add here the class of dark, and when this website will be in the dark mode, we're going to change the background first of all to gray 900, and also the text, so dark once more, and text to white. And I'm going to implement dark mode as soon as we're done with the header, because this is where this little button will live, and we're going to toggle this using JavaScript. So let's take care of our navigation. This is going to live in the header because this entire thing is the header. We're going to have our, well, basically our name of the title of the web page, and then we're going to have a navigation. If I'm larger, this is the navigation that we're looking for. So I'm going to make it smaller again, and then also this little button. So let's go back to our project. Now the H1 will be obviously wrapped into a header tag. So first of all, let's create a header tag. I'm going to start to add to this a couple of classes. So we're going to go with the header should be fixed. You can take a look at our finished project. As I'm scrolling along this website, the header remains fixed. So the way to achieve this is by typing in the class of fixed. Then I want everything to be displayed as flex. We're going to have an all-around padding of 3, a background white, a shadow of medium, a width of full. So it's going to span to the entire width of the website. And I also want to have a Z index of let's just say 10 to be above everything when I scroll over it. And last but not least, let's also add the dark mode. So the only thing that I'm going to change here is the background, which is going to change to a gray and 800 when we're going to trigger dark mode. Okay, so let's hit enter. Let's go down to an H1, hold down Alt and button up, which is going to move this into our top position. Now let's move on to an H1. We have this styled here, but I'm going to just add here a anchor tag with the href of dash x actually, and this is basically just going to refresh the page. So each time I'm going to click on this, going to go ahead and refresh the page, bringing us back to our home page actually. Let's also add a couple of classes. Now the nice thing about Tailwind CSS that it usually, so if I would just cut this out, no BPM, and paste it into our anchor tag, you see no styling is happening here. Usually if you would use just regular CSS, this would be blue, would be underlined, so far and so on. Now we don't want that, but we actually do want that. If you take a look in our fish, but it's going to be blue. When I hover over it, you're going to have an underline. Now you can leave this underline out if you wish. You could just intensify. Actually, we're going to do that. So I'm going to show you how you can. Let's just change first of all the text from this to a blue and 500, and we're going to have add a hover effect of, no, you know what? I'm going to change it to a blue 400, and on hover we're going to have a text blue and 600. Okay, so intensify this little fella. So on the hover, we're going to signify to or alert the user that you can do something with it. Now we're going to leave this. The next element in our header will be the navigation. So let's go underneath our header and let's create a nav tag. Now we're going to add a couple of classes to this. First of all, this is going to also have the full width. So width full. Then it's going to display flex all of the elements that are going to contain in here. We're going to justify. You know what? I'm going to show you later how this is done. So display as flex. Okay, so we have a nav, as flex. Let's add a couple of items so you can see what is going to happen here. A button, let's add a class of on a medium display is going to be hidden, a padding of 2, a BG of gray, and I'm going to go with a gray of 200, and then in a dark mode we're going to have a BG gray and 900 or 700. Sorry about that. Now let's round down the borders, adding rounded, and let's just add here 3 lines. And if you don't have the symbol, then just copy it from the finished code. The code is always down in the description below, and it's also on my, well, one thing is very important. I'm kind of moving away from my own website, from my blog, to Substack. And if you want to follow me on Substack, then you can have each of my blog posts with the code is on the Substack, and it's also on GitHub, of course. So we have a button. There we go. There's a little button. And because we're going to use this button in order to do something with it, I'm also going to add a ID, and it's going to be a menu and toggle. Cool. So we're done with the button. I'm now going to add the, oh, sorry about that. This is not the nav. This is just a div. And now comes the navigation. So nav, and I'm just going to add a couple of elements here. So let's add one anchor tag, and I'm going to add it like this, a projects. So we have 2 elements in here. Now I'm going to go back to this first div, which I mistakenly added as a nav. The first div, and now I'm going to add after the flex class, I'm going to add justify and to the end. See what happens? We're going to push them to the end of the element. Also add a items and center, and voila, items are now in one line centered. But I needed 2 elements in order to show you this. Okay, now let's go to the nav, and I'm going to first of all start styling this class. Now we have a bunch of classes to add to this, so before we even do that, let's add an ID because we need this nav in order to toggle it from our JavaScript. So let's add a menu ID to it. And after that, we're going to start adding a couple of classes. So what we want to do is be able to hide this nav. So we're going to start up with hidden. You know what? We're going to add this hidden at the end, because if I add hidden, you won't be anything. So let's position this first of all absolute. And when you position something absolute, you also need to tell it where. So we're going to add top full and left with 0. Then we're going to add a full width to this. So width full, a BG white, start styling it. Then let's also add the dark modifier. So dark class will be a BG and gray. And let's just go with 800 here for the background. Now, when we're in a medium size, we're going to change to static instead of absolute. Static. I can type static correctly. For the display, we're also going to add a display of flex. So remember, this is just positioning. So the position will be static because we now have absolute. But on the medium size, it's going to be static, displayed as flex, and also MD flex and in a column direction. Now let's also add a items center and the space between the items. So also in the MD, a space of on the x-axis of 6. Okay. So we can't see any changes. If I go outside here, we can say that appearing, this is disappearing, changing orders, changing positions, changing display methods. So let's go now into our anchor tag here. For the href, I'm going to add here hex and projects, because this anchor tag or this navigation will actually send us down to the projects. Now, when you're adding hex and projects in definition, you need to use the same ID then on the section. I'm going to show you how you can do this. And basically, this is just going to navigate you down to the next section, to whatever ID you want. Okay, now let's start styling a couple of classes. So classes or class. Let's add here, first of all, the class of block, padding on the x-axis of 4, padding on the y-axis of 2, then a text of gray and 900. In the dark mode, we're going to add a text gray and 100. When I hover over one of these elements, I want the text change to blue and 500. And on the dark mode, hover, so dark. Let's combine them. When I'm in dark mode and when I hover over the element, I want the text to be blue and 400. Okay, so let's see how this looks. Hover blue, we cannot change it to dark mode. We're going to take care of this just in a couple of seconds. So we are done with one anchor tag. I'm just going to take it and copy it 2 more times. Change the second one to contact and change the last one to about. Now also change here the IDs or the hashes. The contact and about. Obviously, you can add your about section later on your own. So all 3 of them are working. The display is not correct. So let me take care of this. I'm missing here. Oh, misspelled it, flex. There we go. As soon as I leave this, okay, better now. And this should be row, not column, because we're already in column directions. So here I want to be in a row direction. Now, remember that we need to hide this in a specific display. So we're going to go up to the class and menu and type in hidden. Okay. And if we are in a whatever is larger than MD, the navigation will be automatically shown. And when we are in a smaller than medium sized display, basically on whatever mobile device you choose, tablet, phone, so far and so on, it's going to be hidden. Only this little button will appear. Now, we're not done yet. We still need our button, which will be right after the navigation tag, and which is going to trigger our light and dark mode. So we're going to go ahead, ID, theme-toggle, and then we're going to add here, well, I'm just going to copy it. As I said, if you don't have the icons, copy this moon. You also add a sun if you want. And let's start styling is padding of 2, BG gray of 200, and in a dark mode, scroll up here a bit, so dark mode, you're going to have a BG gray of 700, and let's round this puppy up. There we go. Now let's add a margin to the left side of, let's say 4, not seconds, 4, and we are basically done with this little fellow. Okay, so we are done with our header. But as I said, I want to implement dark mode. So what we're going to do next up is create a JavaScript file. So next up, if you want to take a sip of coffee, like me right now, delicious coffee, a little coffee break. And now we're going to go into our folder and create a JavaScript file. So script or main or however we want to name it, but .js should be the extension. And let's also link it up. We're going to go down here after the header, script tag, source and script.js. And we're done. Let's go to our script tag. So we want to grab onto this little fellow right here. And we're going to go ahead, create a const. I'm going to call this toggle. Go to the document, grab onto query selector, get element by ID. How we want to use it, let's go with the get element by ID. Get element by ID. What is the ID that we need? So open and close parentheses, open and close. Double quotation marks. Let's go to the button. It has the ID of theme toggle. Boom. Paste it in here. And now we could just basically go ahead and say toggle dot add event listener. And you know what I'm going to go with? Yeah, we're going to go it this way. Let's do easy JavaScript. Easy Java. Add event listener of click. After we have this event, we're going to create a function. This function will do the following thing. It's going to take now the HTML tag, or let's just go to the document and element dot toggle. And I'm going to stop now and explain to you something. Let's go to HTML tag, back to our HTML file here. So you see this HTML tag, we're going to grab onto this. And what we want to do is add to this little fellow a class of dark, because this is the way Tailwind CSS triggers dark mode, but with a caveat, and I'm going to show you why. So let's toggle here the class of dark. Okay, perfect. Now let's right click, inspect. You can see the element here. If I click on this little fellow, it's going to throw me an error because document is not a function. Oh yeah, sorry about that. So before the toggle, we need the class list dot, because you're toggling its classes. Okay, doesn't have a class yet, but as soon as I click on this little fellow, it should add the class of dark. Okay, it has been toggled and nothing happens. Why is this? Because we need to implement it. Usually you would have a separate file, but in our case, we're going to go over the simple version. So I'm just going to show you how it works in regular HTML. We're going to go right underneath our title, if you wish. You do it above the title, wherever we want to do it. And we're going to implement here a style tag. Within this style tag, and actually before we do this, we're going to add here a type to this style tag. And the type will be a text / Tailwind CSS. And now we have access to the configuration of Tailwind CSS. Within here, we need to import, within quotation marks, Tailwind CSS. And now we can customize it. So we're going to use the add custom, not style, custom, and dash variant, just like a virus. It has multiple variants. And within here, we're going to type in dark, open and close parenthesis, ampersand, and where open close parenthesis, the class of dark, comma, dot, class of dark again, and star. Okay. Okay, so remember to have spaces and everything exactly as you see here, so you won't get this. You're going to get the error that this is not a regular. Shouldn't do this. Don't worry about this error. Everything is okay. So right now, if you click on dark mode, it should actually work, except in the navigation, because I messed something up here. Or I messed something up. You're not the fault. I'm the fault. So let's see, I forgot to add something more likely. So flex padding, BG white, shadow, and oh, this is BG. What am I doing here? BG, and also I forgot to add. Now that's pretty much it. So now it should work. Okay, perfect. So dark mode is from this point out working, and you're going to see it taking action as soon as we are going to implement it in the code. So next up, let's make our navigation responsive. Also, when we click on this little fellow on our buttons, this should then trigger the drop-down menu from our menu. So trigger the drop-down. And for this, again, we're going to go to JavaScript. And just to show you, you can do this even quicker. I'm going to refactor here the code. So refactor. Obviously, you're going to do this if you're now not using this variable anywhere else in your code. So you can also do it like document and dot. I'm going to use now query selector. Doesn't matter. But hash and theme toggle. On click, I'm going to trigger here an error function. And this little fellow, we're just going to grab onto the document. Document element dot class list and dot toggle dark, class of dark. Okay. I'm going to comment out this part and let's see if this still works. Voila, 2 lines of code. Perfect, isn't it? Instead of, what do we have here? 4 lines of code. So half of it, 50%. 50% reduction to the code. Perfect. So this will be, let's type in here comment, dark mode. Let's do it as a to-do, dark mode. Next to do, we want to toggle our menu. So menu toggle. And for this, again, I'm going to go the really short route. I'm going to go ahead to the document dot query selector. We're going to select the ID of menu toggle, basically this little button right here, and on click, create an arrow function, and it's going to do one thing and one thing only. It's going to go to the document. Once again, query selector. We're going to select now the menu ID. So the ID of menu. And to this ID, we're going to trigger. So on its class list, we're going to toggle the class of hidden on and off. Okay. So if I click now on this little fellow, I'm going to trigger my class. Now, let me show you something. So I'm going to go here and back and trigger it and go here again, and it's gone. But it's still being shown when I'm going back here. So I would say that this is a feature, not a bug. But if you want to take this out, then you can do the following code. So we're going to do here if statement. If window dot inner width is less than, and a medium size display, so less than, medium size display is 768. So it's less than 768. Then we're going to, well, in this case, I should have created a variable for this, but I'm just going to copy it, document, blah, 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 toggle hidden, and else document, blah, blah, blah. But in this case, remove the class of hidden. So as you can see, it's gone. So if I do this and back and I trigger it, but as I said, I don't consider it a necessary feature. So I'm just going to comment it out and you be the judge of that if you want to use it. I think this is fine. It's perfectly fine because if I leave this, then I need the navigation. If I come back here, then I also need the navigation. So bringing it on or off, I'm going to leave it up to you. Okay, we're done with this part. Now we're going to go back to our HTML file and work on our next section, which is going to be the hero section. So let's go underneath our header, and I'm just going to type a couple of to-dos here. So comment to-do main section, and then within here, we're going to have another to-do of hero section. After that, we're going to have a project section. So to-do projects, then to-do contact. Then we're going to have another to-do button to top. And last but not least, a to-do with footer. Great. Let's start up with our main section. So main, and that's it. That's the main section. Yeah, but what I'm actually going to do here is move these three fellows. So you can see what I'm doing, or how the project is actually structured. The main section will contain the hero section, the projects, and the contact section. After that, we're going to have a really button that goes to the top, and of course the footer section is going to be a separate section. So let's go to our hero section. Get a section tag. You're going to have a couple of classes like flex column. The items within the flex display will be centered. Item center. You're going to justify the items to center. A screen of a height of screen, and text dash center. Perfect. Now, because most of our sections will be the same, more or less, I'm just going to copy and paste it in each and every section. But let's go, also you can close them up by clicking the fellow. But let's go ahead and only concentrate, also close out the header section, only concentrate on our hero section for now. So let's go into the hero section, and we're going to start up by creating, let's go up, creating this hello. I am a passionate web developer. You're going to type in your own name and create here a button, which is going to send us down to the projects. So we're going to start out here with an H2. We're going to have a text of 4x XL and a font of bold. After that, we're going to type in hello, I'm and your name. This is going to be in a span tag, and this span tag will have the following classes of text blue and 500, and then the name. So I'm Norbert B and M. Initials, and after that we're going to have a paragraph tag. So remaining within the H2 paragraph tag with a text of a passionate web developer, and let's style this by adding a couple of classes of text LG and margin to the top of 4. Okay. Oh, I should be in my, there we go, here. Now I would reduce the font size here onto normal, and right after this fellow, we're going to add an anchor tag. It's going to have a href to the projects. Then let's type in here view projects, and let's add a couple of classes to this fellow. So classes margin to the top of 6, padding on the x-axis of 6, padding of 6, padding on the y-axis of 3, a BG of blue and 500, a text of white. Let's see something happening here. Text white, going to round it, shadow. Oh, I'm sorry, I shouldn't be in here, so not in the H2 but outside of the H2. What am I doing? Okay, so there's our little button. So I mistakenly typed everything into our H2. Don't know why I did this, but hey, mistakes were made. and then a hover. I was wondering why that is so large. Hover of BG blue and 600. So a bit of a darker color when I'm hovering over. Hover BG save 600. There we go. Also, this fellow should take us down to the next section, and that is what I'm going to do right now. We're going to change. Let's just out in dark mode. We're going to change, start now working on our next section, which is going to be the project section. So go down to the project section. You can close up this little fellow if you want to. Close up this fellow. Open only the project section. Now the project section has the same classes, but first of all, let's start out with an ID. It's going to be projects. Okay, so if I click now on view projects, this is just send me down here. Also from the navigation, if I click on projects, also send me down. Now we can't see anything, but we can start out. And let's add a couple of parts here. First, we're going to create a container, regular div with a class of container. This is where these projects, these cards will live. Okay. Now I'm going to add a margin, auto margin on the x-axis, margin auto, and text center. Now first, we're going to create here a title, my projects. So just go ahead, h3 class of text 3xl, font bold, and margin bottom of 10. Okay, and the text within here will be my projects. Furthermore, we're going to create another container for the cards themselves, and we're going to display them as grid. So grid, and we're going to have only one column, grid call and 1, and on a mediums display, we're going to have a grid calls and 3. Also, let's add a gap to it. The gap of 8. Okay, now I'm going to create all 3 of the projects. So I'm going to go ahead. Sorry about that. Had something in my throat. We're going to create the container of the card, which is going to be a P padding of 6, then a BG of white. Then in dark mode, we're going to change this to BG gray and 700. Round out the edges using rounded, add a shadow of SM. On a hover, we're going to increase that shadow to shadow.xl in order to have that zoom in effect. Then we could also animate this shadow using a bit of a transition, an SAI there, and transition, and now we can transition only what we want to transition, for example, the shadow, and the duration will be 300. So bear with me on this one. We're going to include within this 2 things, and open and close parentheses. We're going to include here h4 with the class. You can always see down here in Emmet how this is going to look. And h4 with the class of text XL, then font semi-bold with the text open and close curly brackets of project and 1, then step out of it, add a paragraph tag with the class of margin to the top of 2 and the text of description of project and 1. Now I'm going to step outside of this parenthesis and multiply it, so star 3, boom, have 3 of them. Oh, I messed up something, so Control Z, wait, I need to add this to another parenthesis and then go back 3 again, and now I have 3 divs. Okay, so that's it. There are the cards. One little thing we could add here is a margin left and right. I don't like this. So let's go ahead, add to each of them. So hold down, click in the first one, hold down Alt, and click here, padding and padding, space, backwards, margin, left, no, margin on the x-axis, auto. That's too much. Let's go with just 2, maybe 4. Yeah, 4 is okay. Perfect. So even if I'm in here, I think 2 was better. It depends. It really depends. So even if I'm here, let's go ahead and do... Hey, you can hold down. For example, if you want to select all of them, hold on Control and F, Control Shift and D, and just go ahead and set them to 2. I think 2 is much better. Yeah, I like 2 more. Because when you are in a larger screen, you're going to have 2 plus 2, so it's 4 between them, plus the gap. So I'd rather go with only 2. Or we can do one better. You're going to select all of them, Control D, remove it, and only add it to this little fellow right here. So the gap, but margin on the x-axis will be 2, and just going to add it to the container itself. That's even better. Yeah, go this way, go this route. Now let's check it out, because I'm going to click now on Norbert's portfolio. It's going to bring me up to the top. If I click now on view projects, it's going to bring me down on portfolio again, open navigation, projects, bring me down again. Okay, now how can we close the navigation without clicking here? Because what the user would do, just click in here somewhere and the navigation should disappear. Also, one last thing, if I hover over this should actually add a different shadow. So I messed up somewhere here. This should be like this. Yeah, I messed up this part. So take out those columns right there. Okay, so this is working now. One last thing, as I said, let's go back to the navigation, to JavaScript. And if I click here, then this should trigger the closing of our navigation. So the way we can do this is go in toggle menu. We're going to add document.preSelector. And this time I'm going to select the main tag. Okay, so let's select the main tag and dot on click, and we're going to just do the same thing, add this little fellow to the event listeners. So if this is opened and I click here, we're going to close it up. Okay, and just add remove. So remove and not toggle, move. Okay, so basically if I open up the navigation, click. So the best practice would be to, let me just show you something. Well, actually we need now those classes. So cons, not classes, but we need those variables, specifically bottom out. So const, let's call this menu toggle, and we'll toggle too many G's, and we're going to assign this little fellow to document preSelector and this, and then we need const and menu, which is just going to be document preSelector and the ID of menu. So instead of having now this entire thing, I'm just going to replace it with menu toggle, and then this going to delete here everything. This is basically just going to be menu class list toggle hidden. So this is going to open and close our navigation. And if we want to close it up by clicking outside of it, then we're just going to menu, or actually go to the documents, document, and add an event. So on click, and also we're going to bring in now the event, because we're going to listen now to a specific event. So let's open close parenthesis and create a condition. So if the menu let me just explain it. So if the menu does not contain the event of target, and the menu toggle does not contain the event of event of target, then we're going to menu.classList and .add that hidden. Okay, hidden. So let's try this out. So I'm going to click on this little fellow, let's go upside, click on this fellow, select projects. We're down in project now. I'm going to do something with projects. So click here, and it's going to be gone. Okay, so simple as that. This is how you can hide a navigation, hamburger menu navigation, by clicking outside of the navigation. Perfect. Now let's move on to our next section, which is going to be our contact section. So let's close up with section, contact section. I'm going to close out the project section, open up the contact section, and let's start up by adding to this an ID of contact. This should also work. So I'm going to go up here, navigation, contact, bring me down to contact. Now we need to add a couple of things here in the class list. So screen, yes, is going to remain the entire screen size, but I'm also going to add a padding of on the y-axis of 20. Now let's move into our section. Create here h3 with the class of text, 3XL, and font bold. The text will be contact me. Okay, so there's a contact section. We can navigate to it, contact, projects, contact, close it up. And let's take a look at the finished project. So in our contact section, we're going to have your title, our email address, our website, and our social media tags. So let's start up with our email address. We're going to just add a paragraph tag, simple as that, with a margin to the top of 4. It's going to say here email, and we're going to column and span tag, add your mail and at sample.com. .com, style it a little bit, class of text, gray, and 500. Okay, there's an email. Next, after the paragraph tag, we're going to add a anchor tag with a class of margin top 4. Here we're going to have our website as an href. Let me just add here. I'm going to add, obviously, add your own website. You can add this website or website. I'm going to add, why I have of this. I'm going to add my courses as my main website. We have the course bundles. Definitely check them out. And for the classes, just going to have here with the anchor tag. Oh, there are 2 anchor tags actually. This should be not an anchor tag, but a paragraph tag. This anchor tag should be up here. Wait. What did I do here? Down here. Okay, that's much better. And this would be Norbert School. Okay, there you go, Norbert School. If you click on it, to leave you to my website. Check them out. Definitely check out this course bundles. And within here, we're going to have website and semicolon. Okay, so website. There we go. There's a website. Now, oops, go back here. There's a website, and this should have the class of margin top 4. So I'm going to copy it, paste it to the paragraph tag, and replace this with text gray 100 and hover. We're going to have a text 500, blue 500, not just 500, blue and 500. Okay, 100, that's not okay. Text 400, yeah. So there we go. There's a website. Wait, what was the other one? Text gray 500. 500. That should be 400, both of them. So 400 and 400. Okay, so 400, 400 is going to be highlighted. So after our paragraph tag here, we're going to start with a div because we're going to, so our social text will be in the div. Margin top, let's push them down a bit by 6. Display them as flags and a space of the x-axis of 4. Now let's create our tags. So I'm going to use here anchor tags. So one anchor tag, class of text 2 and 500 and dot hover underline. Let's hit enter. For the href, you need to add in your Twitter example here, and also going to add here the text of Twitter. And because it's now called the X platform, just adding your X handles. So here, this should already work. Okay, now we can copy this more times. Then we're going to have YouTube, and GitHub. And obviously you have YouTube channel, then just paste your YouTube channel and your GitHub account. YouTube channel, also the GitHub account. Perfect. So this takes care of our contact section. And next up, we're going to go ahead and work. There's a finished project on a go to the top button. Should I do the footer or go to the top? Yeah, we're going to go take it off. I'll go to the top button. And it's also going to involve a little bit of JavaScript. So we're going to move outside of our main section even. And let's create here just a simple button, a button tag. I'm going to give this the ID of back to dash and top. This is just going to have a simple icon here. Just copy it from my finished code. And now let's add a couple of classes. So let's just go ahead. All right, so there's a button down here on the left side. Barely see it. Now let's add a couple of classes to it to fix it first of all to the bottom right corner. So we're going to use the fixed class, then to the bottom dash 5 to the right with 5. We're going to add a padding of 3 all around padding, a BG blue and 500 text of white, and let's round out. Let's make it completely round. So rounded and then full. I'm going to make it completely rounded. There we go. Now let's add a bit of shadow MD. Yeah, that's okay. Or let's go in an LG. Yeah. So LG and hidden. Boom, it's gone. Now let's trigger it. And for this, we're going to go to JavaScript. Do here another to do. What do I have to do here? Back to the top of the page. Okay. So the way this works, let's just say this is going to be something that we're not going to use. So I'm going to go ahead for reuse document. We select get the ID of back to top, and we're going to add an event listener to it of on scroll. Or should I just add it as an event listener? Yeah, let's do it this way. So add event listener. We're going to add the event listener of scroll to it, and let's use now a error function when this event happens. Now let's create first of all a condition. Now if the window dot scroll on the y-axis is above 300, then we're going to grab onto the document, create selector, and back to the top button, the ID of back to the top. You know what? I should have used a variable here. Let's go ahead and create a const back to top button and blah, blah, blah. Document, cut this out is equal, add it here, then copy this little fellow and add it back here. So we can now replace it back to top button here. And now let's grab onto this class list and let's remove now the class of hidden. And also semicolons should be removed from here. So let's remove here the class of hidden. But else, if it is above 300 or under 300, then again, the back to the top button class list is going to have added to it the class of hidden. Okay, so we can already try it. Not screen, this should be scroll on Y. Okay, so I messed up there the code. So scroll on Y and oh, this should be window. Sorry about window, because we're listening to the window scroll. So we're scrolling down the window and the button appears. Okay, simple as that. And we scroll up, it's above 300 or underneath of 300. So that's the way it works. Now, when we click on this button, this is why I wanted to actually add it as a variable. When we click on this button, so dot on click, we're going to window, dot scroll, scroll to, and now we're going to give it the coordinates, and we're going to go top 0, and that's basically it. Okay, so let's try this out. Going to scroll back to the top if I click on it. Now, because we're almost done, actually we are done with our sections, all we need is the footer. I'm going to show you a little trick. Let's take a look at our finished project. You see how the behavior of the scroll is here more smoother than in our finished project. Boom, it's just jumping there. So what you can do is either you do it using JavaScript, but we're not going to do this. But what we are going to do is do it using our HTML or Tailwind CSS. And in Tailwind CSS, you're going to go up here to the HTML tag, add a class here. I'm going to tell the class to be a scroll move. Okay, so let's try this out. Now, if I go to the top, or go to the projects, or go to contact, or even I click on this button, scroll behavior will be smooth. Simple as that. Nice little trick, isn't it? Okay, all that is left now is to create a footer. So dark mode is working. Now let's take care of our footer by going down here, footer tag, actually creating a footer tag first of all. So footer, and I'm going to automatically just add the classes. So I'm going to have a padding on the y-axis of 4, then a background of gray 300. In dark mode, we're going to have a BG gray and 700, dot text and center. Okay, now let's populate the footers. Just going to have a paragraph tag with the ampersand, copy, and semicolon in order to get our @copy sign there. Now we need here, after copy sign, a date. So what I'm going to do is create a span tag, add here a ID of current year, and I'm going to show you a little trick how you can constantly update this to the current year. For this, we're going to go to JavaScript, create here to do, and let's try and type in here dynamic here in footer. And the way we can do this is const, and this time we really don't need it anymore. So document pre-selector the ID of current year dot text content, and the text content here will be a function which I'm going to create here const, and this function is automatically going to be assigned to a variable. So each time this loads, this variable is going to get the value of the function. We're going to call it current here, which will be a new date object. So date goes parentheses and get full year, and now we can just add this current text down here is equal to the current year, and there we go, 2025, the current year. Now let's add a bit of text to it, or let's add more text to it, and I'm just going to add here after the span tag your name, all your rights reserved. Okay, so in my case, Norbert BM, or actually I'm making out media, the company, but I'm going to leave it as Norbert BM, all rights reserved. And with these all rights reserved, we are done here with the projects. Let's check it out. Dark mode, scroll to the top, scroll to the bottom, display the little icon that's going to scroll us back to the top, use the navigation in order to scroll smoothly to each and every section. Also have a completely responsive model with a drop-down menu, which can also navigate us. And also, if we click outside the menu, it's going to close up the menu. So, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed this project. If you did, please give this video a thumbs up, like and subscribe to the channel. Click that notification bell to get notified when I post new videos like this. We're going to move slowly to React projects next up. So, if you want to get them, and if you even want to get them quicker and get access to all free courses, become a member to the channel, or just check out the link in the video description below to get access to, where is it? This is the great bundle where I'm going to have access to all of the major courses in web development that I have, also ebooks, so on, so on. So enough publicity. Thank you so much for watching. Happy coding. Catch you next time on the channel. Bye-bye.